Hey, everyone, and welcome. I was thinking about all the buzz around Steve Jobs and what made him so successful, and I got to say, his intuition always fascinated me. So today, we're going to dive deep into that, see how intuition can be a real secret weapon, kind of like it was for him.
It's funny how we often think of intuition as this soft, unreliable thing, but then you look at Apple, right? On its way to becoming the world's first trillion-dollar company, that's Jobs, seeing potential where others didn't. Intuition in action.
It's mind-blowing, right? $1 trillion really shows how powerful that intuitive approach can be. It makes you wonder, how can we tap into that kind of thinking?
Well, here's the thing. Intuition isn't some magical gift, It's not reserved for just a few lucky people. We found examples everywhere, from geniuses like Einstein to artists like Spielberg, even military leaders making high-pressure decisions. They all relied on their intuition.
Wait, so you're saying even someone like me, who isn't exactly a tech genius or anything, can learn to use this intuition?
Exactly. Think of it like a muscle, yeah. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Remember that quote from Jobs, the one in that CNBC article? He said, "Intuition is a very powerful thing, more powerful than intellect, in my opinion. That's had a big impact on my work." He really believed in it.
That's a pretty bold statement. It's like he wasn't afraid to trust his gut, even when everyone else might have thought he was wrong.
And that's where the magic happens, you see. When we can quiet down all that mental noise, create a space for those deeper insights to bubble up. Sue Hawkes, in that same article, talks about the power of quiet. Creating a space, a quiet space to listen to that inner voice. Are you giving yourself enough quiet time during your week?
That's the real question, isn't it? With everything going on, it's easy to feel like you're always on the go. But maybe, just maybe, slowing down could actually help us think more clearly, make better decisions.
That's what we're going to explore today. Because it wasn't just luck for Jobs or Einstein or even Oprah. These wildly successful people in all sorts of different fields, they all figured out how to nurture their intuition and really trust it.
Okay, now you've got me hooked. So how do we actually do that? Create this quiet space in our crazy busy lives.
Yeah.
But how did Steve Jobs tap into that inner wisdom?
Well, Jobs, he was big into mindful meditation. He found it helped him cut through all the distractions and really focus, find that deeper clarity. And, there's actual science to back this up.
Meditation, huh? So it's not just about sitting cross-legged and chanting, Om.
Not at all. Even just a few minutes each day dedicated to being present, being quiet, can make a huge difference. Just imagine.
So we're trying to create that quiet space, right? Trying to hear those intuitive whispers. But how do we actually use that to make decisions? It's one thing to feel calm and all, but how do I know if it's really my intuition talking or just, my stomach grumbling?
I see. You're hitting on a really common misunderstanding there. Intuition isn't about ditching logic completely or only going with gut feelings. No, sir. It's more about finding that balance, you see. That sweet spot between what your rational mind says and those deeper, sometimes subconscious insights.
Oh, okay. So it's like my intuition gives me information, and then my logical brain steps in to figure out how to use it.
Yes, precisely. Like a partnership, right? Intuition is the brilliant advisor whispering all these possibilities, and then your logical mind, that's the experienced manager, putting those possibilities to the test, seeing what works.
Gotcha. I like that. Teamwork. But how do we learn to trust those whispers? Especially if they're telling us to do something that seems, illogical. Or risky.
That, my friend, is where things get really interesting. Remember Stanislav Petrov, the Soviet officer we talked about? Went against every warning bell and siren he had, all based on a gut feeling. Talk about a high-stakes situation.
Yeah, the Cold War missile crisis.
Yeah.
Still can't believe that actually happened. That's some serious trust in your gut. But it does make you wonder, how do you tell the difference between intuition, which is supposed to be this quiet voice, and fear, or even ego? Those can be pretty loud and persuasive sometimes.
Now you're asking the right questions. That's a vital skill, you see. And it all comes back to that quiet space we were talking about. The more you practice quieting the mind, whether it's meditation, mindful breathing, even just going for walks in nature, the easier it becomes to separate those voices, to hear your own intuition clearly.
It's like developing an internal radar then. Learning to spot those signals, those flashes of intuition.
Bingo. And like any skill, it takes practice. But here's the exciting part. The more you trust those nudges, those little whispers, and act on them, the more confident you become in recognizing them. It's a beautiful cycle.
Makes sense, yeah. Like anything else, the more you do it, the better you get. But what about when our intuition seems to be leading us in a totally different direction than we planned? How do we know when to trust those detours, those unexpected turns?
That's where we can learn a lot from someone like Steven Spielberg, He once said that he sees intuition as this whispering possibilities while your conscience that shouts obligations. So it becomes about figuring out which voice is talking to you at any given moment.
Intuition whispers, conscience shouts. I like that. So it's about being open to new possibilities, but not completely throwing our values out the window.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance, that sweet spot where your intuition and your true self are aligned, even if it means taking the road less traveled.
You know, this whole conversation, it's really got me thinking about all those times I ignored a hunch or talked myself out of something because it didn't seem logical at the time. What if I had listened, to that quiet voice?
It's a struggle we all face, honestly. Even Oprah, someone who seems like the queen of trusting your gut, she talks about how it's a constant practice.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
She warns about the noise of the world drowning out that inner voice. How often do you feel that in your own life? Oh, all the time. Work, family, social media. It's like a never-ending stream of information.
Mm-hmm.
It's no wonder it's hard to hear anything else. But I don't know, hearing that even Oprah has to work at it makes it feel more doable.
Exactly. And it's not always about these huge life decisions or predicting the next big thing. Intuition, it can show up in smaller ways too. Like you meet someone new and you just know, right? You know they're going to be a good friend.
Yes, or you walk into a room and can just feel the energy even before anyone says a word.
Precisely. And remember Einstein. When his theory of relativity was proven, he wasn't surprised, not one bit. He just felt it was right all along. It's like tapping into a deeper knowing, even if you can't quite explain why. It's funny because when you start to recognize those moments, those times you just knew, it does something to you, builds a different kind of confidence, almost like you're accessing this hidden power, this resource that's always been there.
And that's what we're hoping you take away from this step dive, really. It's about understanding the power of intuition. Not as some mystical ability, but as a skill, something you can develop, something you can trust. It can lead to greater clarity, more creativity.
And like we saw with Stanislav Petrov, it can even prevent disasters, right?
Exactly.
So bringing it back to Steve Jobs, it's more than just building a successful company, right? It's about changing how we see the world.
Yeah.
How we create, how we innovate, how we lead.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Who knows what you might achieve when you learn to listen to that quiet voice inside.